Hi everyone, I'm Lachlan Ansell, or just Lockie, you probably know me as.
Hey there, it's David Haynes from SimSpeed TV, also commentating iRacing with RaceSpot and with HJBC.
A good commentator is someone who can enhance the vision and the sounds that people can see and hear for themselves and translate it into a narrative that tells the story of.
Hi guys, my name's Cass Hoare and I'm currently running car number 19 in the Hyundai Excel eSeries. I'm fairly new to the whole racing scene as a driver. I have been following racing for years, but the closest I've probably come to racing is mucking around and
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
And a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Monza in Italy for round number 6 of the Circuit Excel eSeries presented by Shannon's Insurance. I'm your commentator, Lachlan Mansell. Alongside me in the commentary box this evening, as he has been right throughout the series, is David Haynes. And David, we've gone to a number of different venues. Some of them have been fast, some of them have been technical. Tonight we go to the circuit with the highest average speed on the calendar. It's the classic Monza circuit in Italy.
Yeah, g'day Lockie, g'day everyone. Doesn't feel like that long ago we were at Oran Park, and I can't think of two circuits more different in character. Oran Park, very compact, some long corners, some twisty corners, crosses over itself there. Here at Monza, it's all about sixth gear, it's all about the slipstream, it's all about flat out, and that's of course where the name Temple of Speed comes from. People make their pilgrimage here, and it is fast.
So qualifying has been run and won, closely contested session as we can expect, and race number 1 not too far away. Before we get there though, Cassandra Hall, one of the competitors in the Circuit Excel eSeries, went on a tour of her simulator setup. Here she is talking us through her sim rig.
Hi guys, my name's Cass Hoare and I'm currently running car number 19 in the Circuit Excel eSeries. I'm fairly new to the whole racing scene as a driver. I have been following racing for years, but the closest I've probably come to racing is mucking around in a rental car until now. So this has definitely been a really fun and challenging experience to get used to. My brother was an Excel race driver for 6 odd years, so I'm not unfamiliar with the category. And decided that I definitely wanted to jump in on some of the action and started building my Excel last year in November with my dad, and we were lucky enough to get it out for a couple of track days just before the restrictions set in. So I'm really keen to get some more track time once the restrictions have lifted and hopefully join in on first state round early next year. But anyway, today we're going to jump in and have a look at the sim rig that I've been using for the Circuit Excel eSeries. So here's a bit of a look of the race sim that my brother built for his racing that I've been fortunate enough to use in the Circuit Excel eSeries. All this is built on a P1 chassis from SimLab. It's got the triple monitor setup as well as an extra monitor up there to run anything in the background while racing. Back here we've got a V2 Pro Direct Drive SimmerCube kit. Comes with the shifters and the Sparco wheel kit with all the cockpit controls. All of that's from HRS in New South Wales. Back here we've got the ProSim pedals from HE in Germany. They've actually been really hard to get used to, but we're getting there very slowly. Off to the side here we've got a couple of H patterns as well as a sequential shifter and a handbrake. We also have an e-stop button just in case we need to stop the force feedback on the wheel. Keyboard and a mouse tray, keep them close while racing, and then we just have a normal Cobra race seat from Revolution Race Gear that I've had to pillow up a little bit to reach the pedals because everything's still set up the way my brother had it. But yeah, it's a pretty epic setup, and I'm really enjoying it. Thanks guys for tuning in. I hope you block out your Saturday night to watch round 6 of the Circuit Excel eSeries at Monza.
Thanks, Cassandra, for that tour of your sim rig, and great to see that Cassandra Hall's going to be racing in the Circuit Excel series, following in the footsteps of some other female drivers who've used Excel series racing as an entry point into circuit racing, including Emily Duggan. Not too far away from race number 1 for the Circuit Excel series here at Monza. And as we count down to the opening 30-minute race of the night, good opportunity for us, David, to recap the championship points coming into this round. We are at the halfway point, 5 rounds down, 5 rounds to go, and it's Ethan Grigolz who holds a 96-point advantage at the top of the standings. 1,140 points for Grigolz, plays 1,044 points for second-placed Ben Bargwanna. And a few nervous moments for Ethan Grigolz at Oran Park, where he got turfed off the road in race number 1 and then had another incident in race number 2. Came out of Oran Park with not many points at all. Really fell back to the field in the championship standings, but then rebounded in the best possible style with a pair of race wins last week at the Catalunya circuit in Barcelona.
Yeah, it looked like he almost walked away with it in race 1, but with that reverse grid format, he had to fight for it in race 2. Fight for it he did, and a very deserving winner of all of those points to put himself back in the lead of the points, overtaking Tommy Saunter-Chun, who was right up amongst it before that. So it's Ben Bargwanna in second, Aaron Oliver in third, as you said. Tommy Saunter-Chun back into 4th place in those standings, just ahead of Ben Smith in 5th, and Matt Brunt is in 6th. Dylan Burse 7th in your points. Jack Boyd has been feisty and fast. He gets 8th place. Brock Feeney 9th in the standings, and Lee Harrison rounds out, I guess, your top 10, and halfway there, halfway done. That's about the drivers who are still in the mathematical hunt with 300 points per round.
Indeed, so point system based on the Supercars Championship point system with 300 points per round, except for the final round, which will carry a total of 600 points for that event and should bring the championship right down to the wire. So in terms of drivers to watch tonight, the news is that for the first time this season, Ethan Grigolz is not on pole position. He clean swept qualifying in the first 5 rounds of the series, but tonight he will not start first. In fact, he won't start second either. He'll start in 3rd position, and that's because Dylan Burse has topped the qualifying times.
Yeah, I had my eye on some of the qualifying, and I think you really needed to have some friends out there on the track if you were going to set the fastest time of all, because Monza is fast, 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 and we know that the TCR cars we're using, very sensitive to the slipstream, very much like to pick up a toe, as would any race car around Monza, 4 long straights all the way up to the top of 6th gear around here. You can pick up a lot of time in a slipstream. So to get pole position, you really needed to put the whole lap together perfectly and be in the right place at the right time with the right people around you.
It's always a fine balancing act, because at a track like Monza, you absolutely need to be in a position where you can benefit from the tow from other cars. However, you need to also be careful that you don't put yourself in a situation where the amount of time that you might gain through slipstreaming gets lost through getting held up through the corners. And one of the other things, and you and I were discussing this off air before, David, is that with the chicanes at Monza, both the first and the second chicanes, and also Ascari, if you take too much curb, it's very, very easy to cop a lap time invalidation and have your lap time disallowed. So that would have been the other challenge that the drivers would have been faced with as well.
And of course, no bump drafting in qualifying, that would also invalidate your lap time. So all that together, I think it's actually, for how simple it would be to hot lap this circuit by yourself, I think was probably a challenge in qualifying for our drivers to put together a competitive but clean lap. Some of the groups had as many as 30 cars on track together at once. Try to find yourself, even around a Grand Prix style circuit like this, some clean space where no one's going to get in your way, no one's going to bump you, no one's going to impede your run, and you're hoping somewhere around the lap to pick up a bit of slipstream. Otherwise, you're not going to be as fast as others. All of that together, probably going to give us a bit of a mixed bag in qualifying, more than we might have seen some other rounds.
Yeah, and in the races as well, the slipstreaming is definitely going to come into play because we'll see them using the slipstream to jockey for position and try and set up overtaking manoeuvres on one another. And what you don't want to do is get yourself into a situation where you lose the slipstreaming advantage of the lead pack. It's a bit like the Tour de France, where you need to be in the peloton, as in you need to be in the lead pack of riders who are able to slipstream one another. If you lose touch, you basically end up falling further back than fullback. So I've got practice underway at the moment, and it's a massive field of cars. I think there's about 55 cars that are on the grid for this evening, David, and that's going to present some big challenges heading down into the first chicane, which we know is very much an action zone, particularly when you've got so many cars in the field.
Yeah, a big grid racing door to door is not going to be a huge change of pace for a lot of our drivers, but it will have its challenges. And this, as we're going to point out and see, a very fast track, very slipstream dependent, and then into those really hard stops of some of the chicanes here, particularly turn one. Rolling start means we're going to be approaching turn one on lap one at near enough to full racing speed with that huge grid. So if you want a good result in race one, you're going to have to survive that.
Race 2 will feature the top 10 reverse grid format, which produced such spectacular racing last time out at the Barcelona circuit in Catalonia. We had fierce dicing for position right the way through the top 10. Ethan Grigol managed to get himself back to the front, but it took him until the very closing stages of the race to do it. We saw that tyre conservation was quite a big factor at Barcelona last weekend, with the lap times dropping off by 3+ seconds a lap over the course of the race. Time management, it will still be a bit of a factor tonight, but Monza typically is not a circuit that's as hard on tyres as some of the other tracks, mainly because you don't have any particularly fast corners that are putting that much load through the tyres.
Yeah, and just a bit more time spent going in a straight line than negotiating those long, almost torturous, never-ending turns of Barcelona. Here, not quite so much a tyre testing ground as maybe an engine proving ground. Warm-up underway right now. 10-minute warm-up session after qualifying and before this race. Just let everyone settle in. And we are, as you will no doubt see, maybe about 4.5 minutes away from getting race 1 underway.
So a final opportunity for the drivers just to warm themselves up ahead of the opening race of the night. And when we get into the race, of course, we'll be able to recap the qualifying results, which were very interesting. It's high quality lineup of drivers that have found themselves inside the top 10 positions, including our main title protagonists who are all somewhere in the mix. Right on board with Jordan Ross as he exits the Parabolica, which is the final corner on this Monza circuit. It's a long and quite fast right-hander that leads you onto the main straight. And these TCR cars, David, I think you'll find that they'll be on the rev limiter in 6th gear in several positions around this circuit, the main straight being one of them.
Yeah, especially if you're picking up a big toe off a car or gaggle of cars in front of you, which most of our drivers are going to be doing most of the 30-minute sprint race, I would imagine. It won't be hard to find a friend out there with 55 cars. So I do imagine almost every lap, almost every driver will be picking up somewhat of a slipstream, and fixed gear set for everyone. They're a little bit on the short side for some circuits in these Audi TCR cars. And some places at some circuits, you can just run out of gear in 6th gear in these cars. One of those, as we've learnt, is coming down the hill at Bathurst and towards the chase if you pick up a slipstream. Imagine a good run out of Parabolica, the very long run towards turn 1 here, another place that's possible. And it means that you might try to make an overtaking move, pull out of the draft, hit the top of 6th gear, and kind of stall out your momentum there. And that could make it dicey into turn 1, even deep into the race.
Indeed, once you reach terminal velocity and you get to a point where the car just won't go any faster, then you kind of run out of options, don't you? And I think that's something that we could see happening here at Monza. You talked about it happening on Conrod Straight at Bathurst, which is a downhill section. And I agree with what you were saying about the gear ratios in these cars being quite short as well. One of the things that you do notice when you have a drive in these Audi RS3 TCR cars on iRacing is that at circuits like Phillip Island and Bathurst, circuits that we're familiar with in Australia, corners that you would normally be in 2nd gear for in other race cars, often in the TCR car, you'll be in 3rd gear because of the fact that the gear ratios are quite short.
First and second don't get a lot of love. Third is great for the slow corners, and then a lot of corners end up being 4th and 5th gear corners for this model of car. Nonetheless, you do get that sequential gearbox changes very quickly through the gears, so that's nice in its way. It's just the final drive and maybe the spacing is a bit locked in place to be useful in a range of conditions, not quite as tailored as you might have it if you were thinking about Monza and having a specific ratios for that. But in the name of competition and potentially cost savings, that final drive ratio and that gearbox locked in for every circuit.
In these cars, it is actually a dual clutch transmission as well, similar to the technology that's used in some road cars where you have a pair of clutches, one for the odd-numbered gears and the other one for the even-numbered gears. And the clutch engagement and disengagement is basically managed by a computer, but what it allows is for you to have very quick and virtually seamless gear changes, which is particularly useful in a race situation.
About race situations, we're going to have one in just a couple of seconds time. Warm-up comes to an end, and then all of our cars form up halfway around the circuit behind our pace car. I'm going to come to a rolling start here for race 1, so we can take a look at that gridlock.
So Dylan Burse on pole position.
Ben Smith going to be alongside him, then the row behind Ethan Grigault, your points leader. He shares row 2 with Jordan Ross. Caleb Hydes then in 5th, Andrew Hobby with 6th. Jack Boyd, we mentioned, he's in the top 10 of the points. He's going to start in 7th. Aaron Oliver, he just needs a couple good points finishes, and he's going to be very happy with himself. We can talk about that one later in 8th. Lachlan Manif then in 9th, and Chelsea Angelo, top 10, I believe, in both races last week. going to start in 10th place.
Indeed, continuing her good form. So let's see if she can move forward once again. Lachlan Mayfield be keen to bounce back after a pretty tough round at Barcelona last week. Over the page, we go to Jaden Wanzek out of position 11, Sam Christensen out of 12th, Ben Bargwana in 13th. He's had a habit of racing better than he qualified, currently second in the points, Ben Bargwana, so he'll need to move up from there. Matthew Brunt, Tommy Saunter, Chun, a couple of our title contenders in positions 14 and 15, and then it's Jonathan Bykoff ahead of Jordan Sinney, Lachlan Ward, Darren Whittington. Great to see Benny Grice back for another round of Excel competition as well.
Big grid, as we say. And then in 21st, we've got Nick Scaife. We've got Ryan Casher in 22nd, Gordon Smith in 23rd, Riley Book in 24th, Liam Hydes 25th, Peter Clark 26th, Dean O'Neill in 27th, Edward Mitchell in 28th, Brett Matheson, not sure if we're going to see him take the start, but he qualified in 29th, and Jason Beggs in 30th. Then we might cycle through the rest of your grid on the screen because we're getting close to race start, race 1 from Monza here. Grid just coming through Parabolica now. Then we're going to see that pace car peel off. Dylan Burse might take the opportunity to jump early, or he might keep everyone stacked up until the last possible minute on this race start.
So it's up to our pole sitter Dylan Burst to control the pace of the field at this start as the safety car peels into pit lane. We are underway for round number 6 of the Circuit Excel eSeries presented by Shannon's Insurance here at Monza. And a nice jump from the front of the field by Dylan Burst. Ben Smith tucks in behind, and then it's Jordan Ross and Ethan Grigault side by side as they head down into the braking zone for the first chicane. It's a massive field of cars. Hopefully they can all get through cleanly. Nathan Grigault slots into position number 3.
Burst jumping early was probably great for the rest of the field. It stretched out the pack a little bit. We didn't see 4 wide, 5 wide going into turn 1 like you might have otherwise seen. And it's worked well for Burst because he's trying to get away from the rest of the pack. Behind, though, almost looks like Ethan Grigault pushing Ben Smith along.
Yeah, Ethan Grigault looking very racy very early as he attacks the back of the car of Ben Smith. Oh, we've got one of the cars off the road through the second chicane, manages to get back on, thankfully, without losing too much in the way of time or positions.
Might have been Ben Bargwana, potentially. He's in the top 10 in the points.
And he'd made an excellent start, Ben Bargwana, to move up there. He's actually Ben Bargwana running side by side with Jaden Wanzek on the run down towards the Ascari chicane, which is the fastest chicane on the circuit. Tommy Saunter Chun sitting there in position number 15 at the moment. He's got Matthew Brunt right on his tail as they head into the really, really fast chicane where it's important to carry the momentum through without running cars. Oh, we've got a big accident. A massive shunt on the approach to the Ascari chicane, and that is going to wipe out multiple cars in the field. Goodness gracious me.
We've seen a safety car, I believe, once so far in this season. Might we potentially see one again? Take a look at the replay here. That's coming down towards the Ascari chicane. The track almost entirely blocked. Look at them here. Through the Lesmos, 2x2x2 here. So Chelsea Angelo already missing. No, Chelsea Angelo was up the road from this. You see here, what on earth happens? The cars behind with nowhere to go pile into the incident. 3 wide just does not work. And underneath the bridge,
I'm not going to try and name all of the drivers that were involved in that incident, but Ryan Casher was definitely involved. So too was Jonathan Bykoff. And behind them, the carnage just got worse and worse and worse. Never a good thing when you've got cars that are colliding in a straight line, because it means that one driver has moved across on the other one, and that has created absolute pandemonium on the opening lap of this Excel eSeries race.
And the safety car has been deployed for that one. So our second safety car in, what have we had, maybe almost 8 races or so. Of course, the safety car absolutely required in this situation. Debris spilled everywhere, a lot of damaged cars, and some drivers behind thoroughly disadvantaged because they just could not work their way through that disaster scene.
So we were riding on board there with Ryan Casher, and it looks like as he was heading up that back stretch there, it was another car that moved across on him. They both went into the fence, and it was as they ricocheted back out onto the racetrack that the cars behind that would have been accelerating at full speed just had absolutely nowhere to go. So I think a sensible decision from race control to bring out the safety car and neutralise the field, because what it does is it gives those cars that were involved in that accident a chance to come into the pits, get some repairs undertaken, get back out, join onto the back of the queue, and it's not going to put them totally out of business altogether.
So Dylan Burst keeping the field stacked up behind him as he's about to come around and pick up the safety car. In taking his time coming around, he's actually helping quite a few of those other drivers potentially stay on the lead lap. So they're going to be thankful for Dylan Burst's efforts in keeping the field contained. Your winners and losers through that first couple of laps, though, inside the top 10, Aaron Oliver jumps 3 spots into 5th. Chelsea Angelo jumps 3 spots into 7th. Ben Bargwana, we incorrectly named him as a driver who might have had some problems. He's had no dramas. He's gained 3 positions into 10th. Your unfortunate victims here, Jack Boyd's lost 5 spots, but outside of the top 15 or so, there's a few drivers who've avoided that chaos and have made whopping gains, including Barry Ryan up from 38th into 18th. Lee Harrison gaining 25 positions, same too for Mark Roberts. So Monza, first couple of laps are always going to be a bit touchy. So some of those drivers who've avoided the dramas done very, very well for themselves indeed. Barry Ryan keeping that car very clean.
Well, Lee Harrison, that was important for him. So, like you say, he's come up 25 spots from 45th on the grid up to 20th position. Of course, he's in the top 10 in the championship coming into this round. So, he needs to come out of the night with a big bundle of points. And after qualifying down in 45th, it wasn't looking great, but he's been a big beneficiary of that opening lap carnage. Now, keep in mind as well that the other thing that you need to do if you're a championship contender is you need to finish inside the top 10. And that's because race number 2 features the top 10 reverse grid format. So for some of our championship contenders who are currently outside the top 10, names like Tommy Saunter, Chun, Jack Boyd, they need to try and make up some spots. Matthew Brunt would be another one, get themselves into the top 10. We saw last week, didn't we, at Barcelona, that Tommy Saunter Chun was just able to squeeze his way into the top 10 late in the race, and that gave him the advantage of pole position for race number 2.
Gonna cop another replay here and just try and unpack some of the chaotic events of the first lap, including into that second chicane and, well, into the first chicane on the first lap as well. If you were right at the back of the pack, my goodness, it was not a happy place to be.
No, we didn't actually see a lot of that opening lap drama because most of it happened a bit closer to the front of, and we were focusing on the battles that were happening at the front of the field, which was all fairly clean until they got to that back stretch there where the big pile-up occurred.
Here's an interesting note on persistence and never giving up. The drivers who got their cars damaged and limped around to the pit lane have stayed on the same lap as the leaders. The drivers whose car needed to go onto the tow truck have fallen off the lead lap. So no matter how much damage you had on your car, if you could just get it around that remaining half a lap to the pit lane, you're still in this.
Yeah, it just goes to show, doesn't it, that sometimes it is worth limping it back to the pits, even though it can be a bit of a frustrating journey with a steering wheel that might be at all of the wrong angles in a car that's not performing anywhere near the sort of speed that it should be. Just by making the effort to get the car back to the pits rather than opting for the tow can be a decision that will ultimately pay dividends a bit later on. We are going to have at least one more lap behind the Porsche safety car with the lights still on at this stage, and we've already ticked over 10 minutes in this race as we see a couple of cars fainting to come into the pit lane. That was Lachlan Manif and Ben Bargwana. Now, surely if you're running in the top 10 at this stage, you're not going to come in for a pit stop because any benefit that you might get with fresh tyres is going to be completely wiped out by the disadvantage with the track position that you would lose.
Exactly. In a field of 10, you'd consider it. In a field of this many cars, not a chance. We're going to take a look at the replay on board with Barry Ryan here. And the carnage that potentially unfolds in front of him. Or was he just clear of it? No, they're somersaulting in front of him. He brakes, really gives himself plenty of time and space to react. Driver he was side by side with gets involved in the incident, and he ducks, dodges, and weaves, and goodness, Talladega Nights his way through the smoke.
How good was that for Barry Ryan? That was fantastic evasive action. Actually been a pretty busy day for Barry because, of course, he's the team principal at Erebus Motorsport, and we had the Erebus Junior Esports Academy competition that was held earlier on today.
Tell you what, Lockie, that's the actions of a man who's used to paying repair bills on racing cars. Because the other drivers are like, I'm going to keep it pinned. I'm going to work my way through this, and this is my opportunity to gain some spots. And he's like, I see trouble. Let's give it 80%. Let's back it off a bit here, and make sure we keep this race car in condition. So that's your race car driver mentalities and your pays the invoices mentality.
Here's another replay of some of the drama that we saw on the opening lap of the first chicane. But the thing with taking evasive action and avoiding too much contact in a sim race like this one is the fact that you can't just go, if there's an incident that happens ahead of you, you can't just jam on the brakes and stop, because there's a good chance that you'll then get collected by a car behind. So it's a fine line between slowing down enough to give yourself time to avoid whatever might be unfolding in front of you, but still keeping the pace up enough so that you don't just get slammed up the backside.
Yeah, precisely. Well, the lights are out on the safety car. We've got just about that half of the lap around to go, and we'll get racing again. One other thing here is Ethan Griggolt lost a spot to Jordan Ross right before the safety car was called. So Griggolt from third on the grid is now fourth in the train. Of course, it's going to be a single file restart when we get going, different to the double file race start. So he is back there in fourth now for this restart. Maybe potentially quite a ways back from Dylan Burst, your leader, who we know already knows how to get a good jump away from the field, even with the long run towards turn one here.
So lights are out on the safety car, getting ready for the race start, and it will be up to our race leader, Dylan Burst, to control the pace of the field at this race start. Ben Smith is second. We saw that Ben Smith took a race victory at Oran Park a couple of rounds ago. Dylan Burst, we've seen that he's finished in the top three on a number of occasions as well. Had a tough round though at one of the events earlier in the season, which means that he's a bit further down the championship order than he would like to be. But the safety car peels into the pits. We're back underway. And Dylan Burst has made a decent race start, but so has Ben Smith. And it's Smith who's right in the slipstream of Dylan Burst. They make their way down to turn number one. When we get close enough to pull out and have a look down the inside, he has a bit of a think about it, a bit of a wiggle. And as they head into the braking zone, it will still be Dylan Burst who holds on to the race lead.
Burst went so early on that one. He's already wrapped his Christmas presents for this year already. That's how prepared he was on that one. Very, very good job too, because only Ben Smith came with him. Jordan Ross, Ethan Griggolt napping at that point. So we're off to another clean start. Hopefully it stays as such.
Lachlan Maneef pulling to the inside as they head down into the second chicane, having a look down the inside of young Caleb Hides, who is the next driver just up the road from him. Chelsea Angelo looking the goods as well. There's one driver there who's got to slow down.
That was Chelsea Angelo, I do believe. I currently see her dropping a whole heap of spots. We mentioned that you can't get too greedy across some of those curbs.
Indeed, it was Chelsea Angelo, so yeah, by virtue of just taking a bit too much of the curbs there, copping the slowdown penalty, she's dropped a few positions, fallen back in just ahead of Jaden Wanzek.
Our friend, CEO of Erebus Motorsports there, trying to hold on to those positions that he gained.
A couple of cars getting very, very wide out of Ascari. Again, you need to be very careful how much you do that, or you will get pinged for exceeding track limits.
Pointy end of the field, though, Dylan Burst leading, has Ben Smith right at his rear bumper early in the straight here, and Ethan Grigolt's gotten back through into third as well. They're chasing down, and you can see this, well, working together here. Ben Smith pushing Dylan Burst the whole way down the straight.
Hearing as well that Chelsea Angelo's actually live streaming this race via Twitch, and she's having a bit of a sense of humour failure after copying that slowdown penalty and falling back to 13th position. Fastest lap of the race for our 5th place driver, Aaron Oliver, who we've seen has been one of the title protagonists right throughout the season. He's currently the highest placed of the South Australian XL drivers, and that's important because there's a couple of tyres up for grabs as a prize for the South Australian XL driver who finishes highest in the points at the end of this series.
So a fantastic prize that is. I'm always a fan of not having to spend money, so I'm sure he'd absolutely love that when we get back to the track later this year. At the front, everyone being very calm and sensible in our top 5 here. We saw Ben Smith pushing Burst along in the lead, not trying to grab that position just yet. Ethan Grigolt stays in line for third. Jordan Ross coming with them. Aaron Oliver on the back of the train. In your top 5, almost starting to make a breakaway from some of the drivers behind. For the rest of the field, though, it's a line and a train and a pack.
Ethan Grigolt sitting there in third position. He's definitely made up some ground on Ben Smith. For Ethan Grigolt, you have to ask the question, just how hard is he going to fight to try and win the race tonight? With the championship position that he's in, he doesn't need to take any risks. And the key thing for him is that he is ahead of his main championship rival in Ben Bargwanna, who's a bit further down the order at this stage in position 9.
Oran Park will be strong in his memory. He'd rather finish in the top 5 than throw away all hope of points, I'm sure. Problems for Isaac Sparks a bit further down in the field. I think there's a wheel off that wagon, and that's certainly something we've seen plenty of already in race 1 from Monza.
Looking at Ben Bargwanna at the moment, who's in battling it out with Caleb Hydes. Lachlan Maneef's managed to get ahead of Caleb Hydes as well, so Lachlan Maneef up into 7th position. And Ben Bargwanna setting up for a move on Caleb Hydes as well. They'll go side by side for the run down into the first chicane, but Bargwanna will be not in the ideal position on the outside, but it doesn't matter. He still manages to swing across and pick up that position. So nice racecraft there for Ben Bargwanna, demonstrating the point that I made before, that he's following in his dad's footsteps of always seeming to race better than he qualifies. Jason Bargwanna in his time in V8 Supercars was not known as one of the better qualifiers in the field, but he always had this knack of making up positions in the races, and Ben is following in the family tradition.
Making up positions, Ben Smith has moved into the lead, taken that spot away from Dylan Burst as they come through Ascari once again for the 6th time. Ethan Grigolt is still in the train, so is Jordan Ross, so is Aaron Oliver. Wind the tape back, find that move for the lead. These guys had been working together, it had seemed, so I'm not sure it was the craziest, bravest move you've ever seen. I'm sure they're aware that they want to continue as a group of cars to pull away from everyone else.
Good battle now. So you've got Smith, Burst, Grigolt in there as well. Ryan Casher, though, is back in the pits. He was obviously involved in that incident on the opening lap. Here we go. So here's a look at the move that Ben Smith made for the lead. Swinging down on the inside through Perva Grande there, in fact. So it was a case of getting a better exit from the first chicane, and he pretty much had the move completed by the time they got to the second chicane.
Yeah, and back
And just as I say that,
once again.
Yep, they've swapped back.
Burst had the run down the pit straight towards turn 1, saw the opportunity and grabbed it. Might have almost, well, Ethan Grigoltz tried to get himself in the picture here as well, thought better of taking it 3 wide in race 1. And so Burst to the lead, Ben Smith in third, Ethan Grigolt in third and Jordan Ross in fourth. Means the top 4 are in the order they qualified. Once again, they've untangled themselves. Tommy Saunter-Chun, winner from the Enduro round at Phillip Island, right in the pack here.
And Saunter-Chun setting pretty good times at the moment. In fact, he's just punched out the fastest lap of the race. So Tommy Saunter-Chun, who was down in 15th position after getting caught up in a couple of tangles on the opening lap, fighting his way forward to try and grab one of those all-important positions inside the top 10 and take advantage of the reverse grid format for race number 2. But you'd have to say, going back to that 3-wide battle that we saw heading down into turn number 1, that was good, sensible heads-up driving from Ethan Grigoltz just to decide that discretion was the better part of valour and to bail out of that overtaking manoeuvre, because that would have had trouble written all over it. And like I said, Ethan Grigoltz has his mind on the championship game as well as individual race results. Here's Barry Ryan battling it out with Cassandra Hoare. Big thank you once again to Cassandra, who took us on a tour of her sim rig at the top of the broadcast. Got a few other cool videos coming your way at the conclusion of this race and before race number 2 as well. Stay tuned for those ones. And here is Jack Boyd pulling out for a run on Ben Bargwanna. So all starting to get pretty feisty in the contests at the tail end of the top 10. Lachlan Manapes actually pulled well clear of these cars battling in contact. Jack Boyd and Ben Bargwanna both go around at turn number 2. Jack Boyd was the first one to get loose, and as he spun across the racetrack, the front of his car made contact with the right rear of Ben Bargwanna, the left rear of Ben Bargwanna's car, and pitched him into a spin. Both of those cars are going to go tumbling outside the top 10, which is bad news for Ben Bargwanna in terms of the championship picture.
Yeah, shame that. But they were trying to go too wide through the slowest part of the circuit. You know, that's always going to be tough, especially with how skatey the rear of these cars can be at just about any speed. That battle pack becomes these guys going 3 wide between the Lesmos. My goodness. Saunter-Chun gets to the lead of the pack, though. He's up a bunch of spots now into 8th from starting in 15th.
So important for Tommy Saunter-Chun to take advantage of that reverse grid format. And it's now Caleb Hines who's on the bubble, so he's in that all-important 10th spot and trying to fend off the fired-up Chelsea Angelo. But here comes Chelsea looking down the inside into Ascari. No, she had a very narrow approach into that corner, and that compromised her line on the exit. And as a result, she's dropped several car lengths back behind Caleb Hines, and the disadvantage there for Chelsea is that she'll not have as much of a slipstream effect as what she would have had otherwise.
Top cars have started battling each other. They've not been able to pull away from some of the other pursuing cars inside the top 10. See what happens this time past the stripe. But last lap, Lachlan Manif was the fastest out there in 6th place. Once again, it looks like he is... Oh no! Ben Smith's in the wall. Ethan Grigoltz around.
Oh, wow. On the main straight as well. Lachlan Manif's in the fence too. A multi-car pile-up and our championship leader's out of business. My goodness gracious me, what has gone on here? On the main straight, a section of the circuit where you are driving in a straight line. There was a laps car just up ahead. Was it that car that got involved? We'll find out the answer to that question in a couple of seconds. No, the laps car had nothing to do with it, and it was a 3-wide situation, so Ben Smith pulled out to try and go down the inside of Dylan Burst. Ethan Grigoltz pulled out as well, and as the cars spun back across the racetrack, Lachlan Manif had absolutely nowhere to go. He tried to take evasive action on Lachlan Manif, but as he jumped on the brakes, he lost control of his car and slammed into the Evolution Racing Team entry of Ethan Grigoltz. Unbelievable, a championship-changing moment in the Shannon's Insurance XL eSeries here at Monza.
Wow, I mean, that was even before the braking zone there for these guys. And both of them have tried to get it going again.
Oh.
This is grabbing a bit of reverse gear there for Ben Smith, scaring some of the drivers behind.
Ben Smith was that close to causing a massive pile-up that would have wiped out several other cars by reversing back onto the racing line. He's actually managed to get going again, Ben Smith. The big question will be how much damage there is to his car, though, and if he can still be competitive with his race car in that sort of condition. I really feel for Lachlan Manif there because he was completely the innocent victim. But that has very much let Dylan Burse now off the hook in the lead of this race. He holds a 0.6 of a second advantage over Jordan Ross. Aaron Oliver up into third position ahead of Andrew Hobby. According to timing, Lachlan Manif still scored in fifth position, so I can't believe that he would have been able to carry on, but perhaps he has, but if he is, it'll be with a wounded car, and it won't be too much longer, I don't think, before he is swamped by the cars behind, and then we can see it now on the main straight that these other cars are just going to cruise past Lachlan Manif like he's standing still. We've only got 6 minutes remaining in the race, though, so what Lachlan Manif has to do is just limp this car around, try and maintain a spot maybe somewhere in the top 20, because at least you'll still get decent points for that, and at least he won't lose too much in terms of grid position for race number 2. But what a disaster for Ethan Grigault, fighting for a position in the top 3. We were talking, David, about how sensibly he'd been driving, and just in one blink of an eye, it's all gone pear-shaped.
Yeah, and I think the Eggman's a retirement from this race. Meanwhile, Ben Smith's gotten the car back out on track, might still even be able to grab some points. He's in 30th right now. We'll see what he can do there. This could be massively important. Still a lot of battles going on, and tell you what, my favorite one is Lee Harrison, who started in 45th, is now up into 9th. So he's now into the reverse grid section as well for race 2.
Might be 8th here as well. In fact, it is. Oh, no, we've got more dramas. Jaden Wanzek in the wall. Copped a slight tap there from Lee Harrison as he switched back across to try and gain the position from Chelsea Angelo. So Jaden Wanzek now in trouble. And, yeah, well, he's obviously got damage to his car, which is going to take him out of the top 10 as well. I cannot believe the bad luck that Jaden Wanzek has had in this series. Everything from being caught up with lapsed traffic at Brands Hatch to being caught up as an innocent victim in incidents at Oran Park, and once again, an unwilling victim in an incident that didn't really have anything to do with him, as we see Lachlan Manif continuing to bleed positions in his wounded Legera Sim Racing Game of Gear Direct entry.
Well, Jordan Ross has just grabbed the lead of the race away from Dylan Burse. Now Aaron Oliver is trying to get his nose in the picture at Curva Grande here as well, and that might help Jordan Ross scamper away just a little bit. These top 3 are thoroughly separated from the rest of the field at this moment. Oliver's down the inside here, and they're going to go side by side again. You'd love to see this if you're Jordan Ross. They get into each other a little bit, but everyone keeps it on the paved stuff.
So Jordan Ross showing good pace. We have seen, haven't we, that Jordan Ross has been pretty good at preserving his tyres. Unlucky to miss out on a race win in the Enduro at Phillip Island, where he ran out of fuel on the last lap. Scored a race victory at Oran Park a couple of rounds ago, and this is how Jordan Ross got through the lead in the end with a fairly textbook move down the inside of Dylan Burse into turn number 1. And he's now skipping away in the lead of this race as Dylan Burse has to try and fend off the car of Aaron Oliver. Now, the likes of Aaron Oliver and also, for that matter, Ben Bargwana are going to be in good positions in terms of the championship here now that the leader, Ethan Grigault, is out of contention in this race. Of course, keep in mind that because the incident for Grigault has happened in this first race, not only does he end up with the mega point score from this race, but he also ends up with a very lowly grid position for race number 2. Looking forward to seeing the Evolution Racing driver charging through the field in at the second race of the evening.
That's exactly what we said at Oran Park, though, wasn't it? And that also wasn't to be. It's a dangerous place to be, starting at the back of the grid with a grid this large here. So we are looking then, well, we were looking Gordon Smith, Jordan Sinney, Barry Ryan, all of them together. battling once again at the front here. Jordan Ross is trying to break away and he's being helped by Aaron Oliver going down the inside but not completing the move on Dylan Burse.
Looking for a bit of an over and under there was Aaron Oliver, not quite able to get alongside Dylan Burse though, and if anything, Aaron Oliver lost a bit of time on the exit of that first chicane. It's still ferocious. The battle's a bit further back in the top 10 from 5th position down to 10th, is separated by only about 3 seconds. You've got Caleb Hines and Jack Boyd both fighting for a position within that top 10 as well. How about Lee Harrison? Oh, more contacts down at turn number 1. And that's Barry Ryan, who goes straight ahead through the chicane. We'll lose some spots out of that one. Lee Harrison, who started this race in position 45 on the grid, is up to 5th spot. I'll tell you what, if you'd said to Lee Harrison that you're going to finish in the top 10, and in fact you're going to be in a position where your starting spot in race 2 is going to be lower than your finishing position in race 1, he would not have believed you. But that's how things are shaping up at the moment, because right now, holding on to a top 5 position, he'll actually start 6th in race number 2 with the reverse grid.
Chelsea Angelo pushing Sam Christensen along here on the way towards Ascari. I don't know if that is friendly or not in that particular case, but fighting with all they are worth, especially over that 10th position currently occupied by Ben Bargwana. So great fight from 5th through to 10th in that particular group there. And they have started the final lap of the race.
Indeed, they have. Jordan Ross 1.2 seconds to the good of Dylan Burse. As we cast our eye back to this fierce group of cars that are all battling for position with inside the top 10. Actually, Ben Bargwan has just pulled away a little bit. He's currently in 10th position, but he's pulled a bit over a second over Caleb Hines, who sits in 11th. As here comes Chelsea Angelo, using the slipstream to good effect and getting down on the inside of Sam Christensen.
Through they go 2 by 2. Angelo then becomes on the outside of the second part of the chicane. Car behind is Ethan Grigault, who's some laps down, having had to go on the tow truck after his incident. And as they battle, sure you'd love to see this if you're Matthew Brunt and Lee Harrison in front. Dramas then for Ben Bargwana, he's dropped 2 spots. Bit of damage on that car for him actually as well, so that's no good. I'm sure he would have loved to have finished 10th and gotten that reverse grid pole. Unfortunately, it's not going to be for Ben Bargwana the way it looks at the moment. This battle pack has got Gordon Smith, Lockie Manif dropping all the way down as well. Lead the field. They're on your final lap here. Jordan Ross has pulled more than 2 seconds ahead of Dylan Burse and Aaron Oliver. Producer Fonty is also going to join us right here, Fonty. Final lap. And Jordan Ross, I think, is just about going to seal this one. Aaron Oliver in 3rd, not close enough to grab 2nd away from Dylan Burse before the line, it looked.
Yeah, what a fantastic race that we've seen so far. It's been absolutely phenomenal, really. Didn't expect it to turn it on like this. And Lee Harrison, what a fantastic drive from him to come all the way from the back to finish up in P number 5. So, yeah, great racing. Bit of a shame we had that accident at the start. But all in all, awesome stuff. Can't wait for race 2.
Yeah, a couple more cars still battling to the line. This pack we look at here, Chelsea Angelo, looks like she kept her nose in front of Sam Christensen and the others. And further back, this is the battle. Geordie Sini, Dean O'Neill, Gordon Smith, Jonathan Bykoff in the Turbo Brisbane car around the outside. Gets the door slammed in his face by Gordon Smith in his drag race to that start-finish line there. Another pack behind's got Ben Grice and Cassandra Hoare in it there. And almost everyone comes in order across the checkered flag.
There we go.
Ooh.
What a race.
Apologies for that, guys.
That's right, mate.
Back with you now, but just some slight technical problems with the internet dropping out at my end. But I am back on deck now. But Yeah, obviously, unfortunately, I missed most of that final lap. But one of the key things for me is that Ben Bargwanna, second in the championship coming into the round, fell outside the top 10 right at the end there. So he doesn't get to capitalise on the top 10 reverse grid.
Yeah, a lot happened in 30 minutes there. Just about all of the action you could hope for. We can bring you the finishing results now.
So Jordan Ross, your race winner by 2.3 seconds in the end ahead of Dylan Burst. Aaron Oliver, very good night for him so far in terms of the championship situation. Third in the points coming into the round, finished ahead of both of his key rivals. Andrew Hobby in fourth, ahead of Lee Harrison. Then we go back to Matthew Brunt, Sam Christensen, Chelsea Angelo, eighth, Tommy Sauter-Chun in ninth position. Jack Boyd gets that all-important reverse grid pole by finishing in 10th position.
Just behind that, Caleb Hydes in 11th, Ben Bargwanna, as we said, finishing up in 12th place. Nick Scaife there in 13th. James Zeitz in 14th, another big gainer, 26 positions from 40th place. Dean O'Neill in 15th, Jonathan Bykoff in 16th there, finishing where he started. Almost the only driver to do so. Benny Grice there in 17th, Cassandra Hoare 18th, 19th, Mitchell McGarry, and 20th, Ryan Bell.
And then it's Barry Ryan finishing in position 21. Darren Whittington in 22nd. Lachlan Manif limped his wounded car home into position 23. Lachlan Ward 24th. And then Jared Curry ahead of Chris Donnelly, Peter Clarks, Brent Matheson, Ben Smith down in 29th position after getting involved in that incident on the main straight. And Matthew Hulls in position 30.
Over the page, Frank Hodak in 31st. Kerry Ann McGarry there in 32nd. Jaden Wanzek, tough race for him, finishes in 33rd, last car on the lead lap. And then a lot of the cars that were involved in that early race incident that triggered the safety car and then had to go on the tow truck, finishing a lap down. It's Matt Horn, Ethan Grigalt. Well, we saw that incident for your points leader coming into this round, Geordie Sinney, Gordon Smith, Joel Johnson, Edward Mitchell, Harry Tompkins there in 40th.
And then Isaac Sparks in position 41, back to Mark Roberts, Riley Buick, Liam Hydes, back to Reece Rollins, James Simpson, Ryan Casher, who we saw involved in that massive pile-up on the opening lap, Jason Beggs, and then Scott Stevenson retirements from this race. So position 35 for Ethan Grigalt, that's a 0 for him in terms of points. So 0 points for Ethan Grigalt, and Aaron Oliver getting a very, very handy bundle of 129 points for finishing in position number 3. Ben Bargwanna will get not that many points, but still more than what Ethan Grigalt would have scored. So it's closing up nicely at the top of the championship. Wonder if we're going to be set for one of those grandstand finishes where it comes right down to the very last race of the season. Obviously, we'll still have more rounds to go after this one, but it's shaping up pretty nicely, isn't it?
It's very much a possibility. Unexpected things keep happening, and they're more likely the bigger the grids are. We've had strong turnout, so I think from everything that just happened in race 1, I'm still catching my breath, and race 2 is not too far away from.
It's not. So what we'll do now on SimSpeed TV is we'll head to a break, and while we're on the break, we've got a few nice pre-produced packages to play for you, including one where us, the commentators, tell you a bit more about ourselves. Hi everyone, I'm Lachlan Ansell, or just Lockie, you probably know me as.
Hey there, it's David Haynes from SimSpeed TV, also commentating iRacing with RaceSpot and with HJBC.
A good commentator is someone who can enhance the vision and the sounds that people can see and hear for themselves and translate it into a narrative that tells the story of what people can see and hear. Oh, here we go. Goes for the big send up the inside into turn 3. Can he get it stopped? They'll go side by side on the exit, but I reckon that Boyd might have just managed to make the move stick. And I've always said that the hallmark of a really good commentator is someone who can maintain the attention and the interest levels of the audience, even when there's not necessarily something happening that's particularly interesting or exciting.
When it comes to, moving my commentary forwards, always trying to improve, I think there's a couple things that help. One of them is just watching a lot of other motorsport, hearing how other commentators go about it, and where the excitement and the passion comes from with their broadcasts. Also, sometimes listening back to my own commentary, even when I wasn't 100% happy with it, just to try and make sure I keep moving it forward each time. First, one of those drivers who was quite quick in qualifying, has looked pretty quick, but had just a couple little problems that's dropped him back some spots. So maybe he'll try to size up on this one, close it in.
I do have a massive soft spot for real-life Hyundai Excel racing, because the first car that I actually raced was a Hyundai Excel, which was in the 24 Hours of Lemons back in 2016, and had a lot of fun and got a really good result. Apart from that, I love watching and commentating real-life Excel racing, because you always know that it's going to be really close, really exciting, and there's always going to be a mass collection of cars battling it out for the race win in any given event.
What's greatest about it is the affordability, that it's something people who thought maybe they were too far along in life to start racing can jump into. People who thought maybe they were never going to be able to afford to go racing can step in, get their toes wet, and start at that level of motorsport. And motorsport's always too expensive, so anything that makes it more accessible, more affordable, is a great category that should be supported.
People to watch in the Circuit Excel eSeries, well, Ethan Grigalt has definitely established himself as the driver to beat, and he's the one who has a target on his back, but it's encouraging to see that he's got some pretty high-quality opposition. Tommy Saunter-Chun had a really good run at Phillip Island. We've seen others like Lachlan Manif and Ben Bargwana continuing to improve as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results continue to evolve over the course of the series.
I'll tell you what, there wasn't much space there. They make contact, and it's Grigalt who gets fired off the racetrack. They were side by side, and Grigalt, our championship leader, is in the wall.
Some of the people you're going to want to keep your eyes on is both the people with a lot of sim racing experience who are proving that, like Ethan Grigalt, Jackson Suzlin-Harlow and that like, but also, like any kind of competition, seat time is going to pay off. So the people who are putting in a lot of practice in the TCR, maybe driving it across some other categories, are also really going to start to shine as we get further into this series. So people like Chelsea Angelo and some others who have been driving this car a lot, some different series, and making sure they get their practice in, they're really going to continue to improve, I think, through this championship. Thanks so much. I hope you all enjoy racing in iRacing for the time being. Hope you get back out on track soon. And also, hope you enjoy the broadcasts, because it's been a ripper time putting them together.
Hey everyone, my name is Matt and I'm the creator of the Nugget Project, and I'm currently racing in the South Australian Circuit Excel eSeries. So I'm relatively new to the Excel racing world. When I started building my car, I had a look online and there was a bit of information about building these cars, but mainly regulations. There was no videos on sort of how-tos, and I was bumbling my way through it, so I thought, screw it, I will film it and everyone can learn from my success and my mistakes. And that's how the Nugget Project was born. It was a bit of a joke at the start, and now we're up around, I don't know how many, we've got a couple of thousand followers and we've got a lot of views, and it's going pretty well. So now I'm delving into iRacing with a bunch of the other, well, pretty much every racer in the world I think has jumped to iRacing. I'm currently very much at the back of the pack and having a blast back there. There are some extremely talented drivers in this class, which is great because it makes me lift my game. But right now I'm starting at the back and I'm finding myself sort of midfield. Ever since COVID hit, obviously none of us can get out on the racetrack. And I think it's taking its toll on a lot of people sort of staying inside. So this idea from Maddie and a few of the other boys to get this class going and get a sort of a fixed Saturday night race is a really cool idea. Right now I'm stuck in my house. It's a great house, but I'm stuck in the house. I've got a 2-week-old baby girl who's awesome, but it's nice to have those few hours escape once a week to jump on the sim and get involved. all of us seem to have a bit of trouble with formation laps. Which is frustrating at times, but we're getting better, and I think everyone's new to this, and it's very hard to be in a car where you don't have a lot of spatial awareness and don't have a lot of monitors. Well, I don't, and a lot of people don't. Alrighty, let me show you around my racing sim. So you've heard from a few of the other drivers who are awesome, and they've got these wicked rigs with full wraparound screens and all that sort of stuff. Mine's pretty much on the other end of the scale. I built this sim a few years back for just Xbox, Forza, Project Cars, things like that. It's just a wooden frame, and I bolted my basic Logitech G920 in there with the pedals and the shifter. And then, as I seem to do, if anybody's watched my channel, they'll know I went a bit overboard, and I actually put the old interior for my Toyota Sora on this and then sprayed it all black. So this interior was pretty brown, and I got a genuine black interior for it, so I put that in, and this is the old interior. I cut it up and somehow made it fit. And then one weekend I thought, you know, it'd be cool, a sequential shifter. So I adapted this this shifter, which is actually an eBay handbrake for a Civic. So I pulled the hydraulics out of it and put in some micro switches, and then pulled apart my steering wheel and wired them in, and I've now got a sequential shifter, which is actually handy because my downshift paddle on the wheel doesn't work anymore, so I have to use this, and it's a little more genuine for the Audi TCR anyway. Also, we've got, you can see the little stereo amplifier there. That's just an eBay one, and I'm running a bass thumper in the seat, which is basically just the thumper out of a subwoofer with no cone, bolted to the seat, and when you go over ripple strips or hit another car or change gears, you get that thump to the seat, which is really cool. The computer I'm running is from our mate Ryan, who you would have seen on a bunch of Nugget Project videos if you watch. Ryan Lee, who's a sim racer, and he upgraded to some fancy pants system, and he had that sitting in his lounge room, and he goes, hey, do you want this? So I bought it off him, and now I've got myself a racing sim. None of this is helping me get near the front of the pack, but it's a nice place to be. I like it. Maybe one day I'll save up for some better pedals that actually have some feel, but for the time being, it's doing the trick. Due to all the wood and the interior on this thing, I think it actually weighs more than my XL. It is so heavy, and I don't even want to know what it's doing to the carpet under this. So there we go, gang. This is my little COVID escape, my little fortress of solitude. It's nice to get on a couple of nights a week and battle with you guys and girls and have a bit of fun. So I'll see you on the track as you come booting past. The little blue flash you went past, that's me. Give me a wave. We'll see you on track.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
close racing, definitely. Very, very close. The cars are very evenly matched. You've always got a battle pack, so yeah, it's fantastic fun. It is fantastic fun.
With the 35 XLs around you, it's always tight racing with everyone throughout the category.
What brought me to the category was it was a cheap form of motor racing, where it's competitive, where all the vehicles are all the same, and it comes up to driver's skill to be competitive.
The racing's close and competitive, and you don't need to have much of a budget to run around in the mid-pack. And the big part of it for me is social. We try and make sure that it's a social event just as much as a competition. Most of us here are just having time off on weekends, so we just want to have a good time.
It's a big community feel. Like, we're all good friends. Everyone helps each other out. It's very much we're all doing it together, as well as the competition in there as well. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of big names out here that have been in the game for a long time, such as Bargwana, like they've been here for a long time, and the Excel Australia boys have a lot of knowledge behind them, so they're always helpful around the field.
I guess the opportunities, I think there's a lot of people starting to look a bit at this category as seeing it as a good learning, very basic learning training ground for drivers. And there's some good drivers. There's some drivers in this category that I think are going to get places. I think you'll end up seeing probably 2 or 3 drivers that I can think of maybe end up in supercars.
The opportunities for some people is if they're skillful enough, they can go up the ranks and race in different categories. But this is a good breeding ground for up-and-coming superstars.
Well, Excel is becoming the kind of new way through, from going from XLs through to Formula Fords and so on. But this is becoming a big part of the traditional way through the ranks to the V8 Supercar Series.
I enjoy the category because there's so many people involved, and you can go to different tracks and race in the same category around Australia.
Well, the category of XLs pretty much race everywhere over Australia, including Bathurst, Phillip Island, Winton, anywhere in Australia you can race these things, which is a lot of fun, and from national events to just big state events, there's a lot of racing out there to be had.
I've done a little bit of race car setup many years ago, but never as a driver. So now I have this opportunity to try and learn a little bit about that. But as a driver, I'm a slow learner, but it's good to get your head around all those things in theory.
The good thing about the XLs are very easy to work on, and it's very cost effective if something does go wrong. So if something goes wrong, someone's willing to give you a spare part because they are so cheap to get and easy to come by.
But the biggest part for me really is the social aspect. We all come out, have a bit of banter, have a bit of fun, and all go home straight.
Yeah, there's a big adrenaline rush, that's for sure. It's good fun. Sometimes you have the white line fever when you cross over, you get a little bit angry, and mainly with yourself if you make a mistake, but it's good fun.
It's funny, sometimes when you're out there you talk to yourself and you talk yourself around the track and you
Welcome back, everybody. Great to have your company here on the SimSpeed TV network. You are watching race number 2 for the Circuit Excel eSeries from Monza in Italy. Just some apologies because we did have some slight technical issues, which unfortunately meant that we missed the opening lap or so of the race. But we come back into the action right now. We've got a good battle happening for the lead at the moment involving Chelsea Angelo, Sam Christensen, Jack Boyd, and Tommy Sorter-Chun at the moment. And at this stage, it's Sam Christensen who leads the way. Chelsea Angelo's moved up into second position, ahead of Sorter-Chun to Harrison Ross, Matthew Brunt, back to Jack Boyd, Aaron Oliver, and then Dylan Burst and Andrew Hobby completing the top 10. Lachlan Mansell in the commentary box, David Haynes alongside me. And interesting too to see that Ethan Grigault, who started out in 35th position, has already made up 9 spots to be running in 26th, David.
Yeah, once again, classic Monza race. Slipstream, very, very key. All of our cars closely packed and in a line. As you mentioned, Ethan Grigault now back closer to those points-paying positions that he desperately needs coming into this round as the points leader, trying all he can to hold on to that. But you know, a mixed bag in race 1 means that it's a mixed bag for the grid in race 2, and the beneficiaries of that top 10 invert are trying to really capitalize on it. Chelsea Angelo, Tommy Saunter-Chun, Sam Christensen really in and amongst it.
Well, Jordan Ross, who won race number 1, has already come from 10th. Oh, we've got a big incident. This is involving cars within our lead pack, including Aaron Oliver, who goes firing off the road at turn number 1, and our race leader, Sam Christensen's gone off as well. So as they headed down the main straight, another incident that has happened between cars that have been battling over position in a straight line. Goodness gracious me.
Looking at the replay here, 3 in a line, Jack Boyd kind of leading a pack there. It all goes off behind him. Aaron Oliver picked up a lot of damage, was not able to continue from what I see.
And Tommy Saunter-Chun got into the side of Sam Christensen there as well. So they were the cars that were running in first and second position, and it was Christensen who got turned and turfed out of the lead of the race. Saunter-Chun now the race leader ahead of Angelo. Jordan Ross makes up another spot. He's up to 3rd position.
Yeah, indeed, and a huge pack of cars behind that as well, including Dylan Burse in there we are looking at. He had a strong result. Now he finds himself, where's he running? 15th right now, so he's lost a couple of positions in the early laps, and once again, cars going off around him. Wanzek in there as well. Jamie Wanzek, an absolute magnet for trouble. Mitchell McGarry's always easy to spot in a pack there with the LJ Hooker livery on that car. So once again, Monza throwing up all sorts of surprises.
Here comes Dylan Burse making a move up the inside. So Dylan Burse we saw got overtaken by Jordan Ross in race number 1 a bit earlier on. And Dylan Burse running outside the top 10 at this stage, and it's on for the lead here. Here comes Jordan Ross. 3 wide down into turn number 1, and Jordan Ross might go from 3rd to 1st in one fell swoop here as he goes down the inside of Angelo, who was down the inside of Saunter-Chun, and indeed he has. Jordan Ross goes from position 3 to position 1 in the space of one corner, and we've got more drama at the first chicane with Jaden Wanzek, I think it was, half turning around another driver, then managing to give him another bump which straightened him up on the exit of the chicane.
There's Dean O'Neill in that one, who now finds himself side by side with Caleb Hydes. Hydes backs out of that one a little bit. Dylan Burse, tough start means he's now gaining a position or 2 back. Dean O'Neill has a look at him, and the 2 make contact. Dylan Burse around, is he going to find the barrier? He just gets on the brakes to ease that impact. And we have a safety car in 2 consecutive races.
Yeah, wow. So the officials deciding that they just need to bring the field under control once again to settle things down a little bit. I think that might have been a bit of retribution there as Dean O'Neill, he'd been served up by Dylan Burse in the first chicane and then returns the favour when they got to the second chicane, and it's Dylan Burse who ends up coming off second best. Good performance from Ethan Grigault so far. He's come from position 35 on the grid up to position 20. If anything, this safety car probably helps Ethan Grigault a bit as well, because it will compress the margins at the front of the field, and he'll be able to go on the attack once again when racing resumes. For those of you who want to follow the live timing for this race, head to simspeed.live and you can follow all of the action to see exactly what position on the racetrack your favourite driver is in at any given time. You can keep an eye on the lap times through that website as well. So simspeed.live for all of the live timing for this race. It's race number 2, round number 6 of the Shannon's Insurance Circuit Excel eSeries from Monza in Italy.
And Jordan Ross, now your leader, has just caught up to the safety car. It's going to pack everyone up there, and there's definitely some that it benefits. Bit of a check-up on the way down towards turn 1, though, as the field finds the safety car. And safety car doesn't go particularly fast in a straight line, keeps a constant speed around all the circuit of about 100 kilometers an hour or so. These cars, of course, on their way down towards turn 1 in normal racing conditions, very much capable of as fast as 235 kilometers an hour. So they've caught that safety car and that pack doing safety car speed quite rapidly now. Big winners in the opening couple of laps of this race. I think Ben Bargwanna, we mentioned he was probably disappointed to miss the top 10 in race 1. He's raced his way up into the top 10 in the start of race 2. He's now in 7th place there. Jaden Wanzek up into 14th. I have to crunch double-digit numbers in my head here to work out precisely where Wanzek started, but it was 30th or 40th or well down there, so he's picked up spots in this race as well.
So we'll go back and have a look at the incident for Aaron Oliver. So not really a great outcome for Aaron Oliver, because he would have been in a pretty good position to take some more points out of Ethan Grigault, but as a result of getting caught up in that incident at the first chicane, he's now well down the order and not really in a situation where it's going to be particularly helpful for him in terms of the championship. Ben Bargwanna, on the other hand, quite a long way ahead of Ethan Grigault at the moment, so shaping up to be a pretty good weekend in the championship situation for Ben Bargwanna.
Again, pit lane open, but if you're not carrying a huge amount of damage on your car, there's really no benefit to making a pit stop under safety car conditions in a sprint race like this. It'll just drop you to the back of the pack and you will not have enough time to make any advantage of new tyres. And of course, a fixed setup means everyone has started the race with sufficient fuel for a 30-minute race. No one needs to take on board any fuel. So I don't anticipate we'll see anyone making a strategic pit stop, only if they've been caught up in one of those incidents and are nursing a significant amount of damage that they're not going to be able to continue with.
So we're having a look at this incident for Aaron Oliver, and he was in a battle with, that was Dylan Burr, so they were nose to tail. They were pretty much bump drafting each other. That was a bit silly there, to be frank. They should have been giving each other a bit more room. It wasn't necessary for them to be running into the back of one another like that. And here's another look at the incident that happened for our race leader, Sam Christensen, as well. So, again, as they headed down into the braking zone, Tommy Sortichun was getting a bit of a push for Chelsea Angelo. You can see Aaron Oliver going off in the background. And you know what? Having looked at that incident from that angle, I reckon that Sam Christensen was at least as much to blame for that incident as Tommy Sortichun, because he moved back across towards the racing line when they were in the braking zone. So Sam Christensen can't really point the finger too much at Tommy Sortichun for that one. So back live, we are under safety car conditions, and Tommy Sortichun is back to the race lead now. No, sorry, so we were still on the replay. Tommy Sortichun is back to third position, because here we are behind the safety car. We'll get a race start this time around. Tommy Sortichun third behind Jordan Ross, our race 1 winner, and Chelsea Angelo, who's in second. Now, Jordan Ross hasn't been scoring points in all of the rounds, so he's not really what you would describe as a championship contender. In fact, he was 19th in the series standings coming into this round, but he's certainly going to take some points away from our main title contenders. And we've just had a crash behind the safety car.
Tommy Sortichun has blown his motor under safety car. I don't know if there was damage to his radiator, if he's caught a wrong gear or something, but we heard the sound of a turbocharged Audi motor going kaput at very, very far from racing speed. Take a replay at that one. This is catastrophe for Tommy Sortichun, who's in third place, going along behind in the pack here at safety car speeds, and the motor just gives up on living.
So he must have had damage, but potentially because of that collision that he had with Sam Christensen at turn number 1. But he's going to be limping back to the pits, and that'll be his night done. So another one of our title protagonists, the driver who was 4th in the championship points coming into this evening, out of business. And at the worst possible time as well, because the race is about to restart. He's not going to have time to get the damage fixed and join back onto the tail end of the queue behind the safety car. That's a disaster for Tommy Sortichun.
of all the ways your race can come unstuck and you have a bad day here, we've seen just about every single one of them, but I'm not sure that's what Tommy Saunter-Chun expected. Under safety car, no contact with anyone else, the motor giving way in circumstance like that. I mean, there's a couple of ways that can happen. If you pick up damage on the radiator, it can take a while, but eventually the motor cooks itself and will give way spectacularly like it did for Tommy Saunter-Chun there. Some other possibilities as well, but I think with an automated gearbox like that, that was the most likely, is just sustain some damage and then eventually lost oil pressure or radiator overheating or something like that.
The twists and turns in this Circuit XL series. I mean, the ups and the downs, and the fact that we've had championship contenders having good and bad results, and just the chopping and changing at the top of the points leaderboard. Whoever wrote the script for this series needs a pay rise to start off with, and also a good lie down, I reckon, because as is often the case in real life motorsport, factors better than fiction.
Jordan Ross puts the power down though. He backed everyone up a little bit, waited for that safety car to come in, and the moment it did, power down. He's trying to break away from Chelsea Angelo in second here, Andrew Hobby in third, get racing again. Second half of this race, the final 15 minutes. Field comes through, but the battle into turn one is won by Jordan Ross, who keeps Chelsea Angelo in a new orange-coloured machine for this round behind there. She's been wearing more of a white colour and occasionally the Astrontech colours in previous rounds. Now with the orange machine, single file restart of course, and the whole field spread out a little bit more than our race starts, means that we're clean at least initially before that slipstream packs everyone back up once again. Through the second of the chicanes, everyone comes through moderately cleanly. Jordan Ross still trying to break away from the rest here. Chelsea Angelo then in second. Andrew Hobby, Jack Boyd, Lee Harrison, Ben Barguana all in the train behind as well. The effort that Jordan Ross has done, Fonty, it's all undone down the straights then when Angelo just picks up a toe worth 3 or 4 tenths every corner.
Yeah, you're certainly right, mate. She's having a fantastic drive tonight. We've seen her go really well over this this championship. Considering the first round she wasn't really on the pace, she's still kind of in that top 10, but she's been certainly knocking right on the door of these front guys. Doing a fantastic job. Been excellent racing throughout this series.
Yeah, certainly the case. We've had a couple of drivers who were maybe a little uncomfortable on iRacing, maybe needed some time and some rounds to find their feet. Chelsea Angelo, definitely one of those people who's moved from outside of the top 20 to battling for the podium as we do.
And now for the lead.
Right behind Jordan Ross coming out of Parabolica. Jordan Ross all the way to the right-hand side up against the pit wall there. Chelsea Angelo pushing him along, but they need to
fantastic.
That paved section ends before turn one.
Oh, this is a fantastic battle. What an excellent series this is. Such close, tight racing. The front-wheel drive Audi. What an amazing race car it is.
Ross managed to hold on to it as they tried.
Oh, we've got Manif. Manif has lost it.
Tough round, one to forget for Lachlan Manif. More damage on his car as there's more damage behind that as well. So first time at full racing speed after the restart into turn one, and it bites once again.
Good. And I'm back with you guys, so again, apologies for some slight technical issues at my end, but back on board, and yeah, good to see that Chelsea Angelo's right up fighting with Jordan Ross for the race lead, and like you said, a round to forget, a round that showed so much promise, but a round that has failed to deliver for Lachlan Manif.
Just looking at the pace of Ethan Griggolt from all the way at the back, sitting up in P14. This is certainly a great race from him. We have lost our man who came from 45th in the first race to finish in that top 5. Lee Harrison was way up there, but he's back down in 39th now, so Not a dream night for him, but certainly a dream first race.
Oh, the highs and lows of motorsport, eh?
Oh, you're exactly right. Exactly right. We love the sport, and you hate it at the same time, especially when you get taken out. There's nothing more frustrating, but you want to come back the next week, do it all over again. Good battle here with Ben Bargwanna. He's sitting up in P5 at the moment. Wonder if he can get a...
Starting to make a breakaway, so Jordan Ross, Chelsea Angelo going to do exactly what they did a lap ago. It's not holding them up too badly because 6th place Matthew Brunt is not closing the pack. He's got his own concern.
Well, Chelsea Angelo, she just keeps improving, doesn't she? And she's pulled up on the outside of Jordan Ross as they head into the first chicane. The late under brakes, but it's Angelo who runs wide and ultimately has to surrender that position. And here comes Jack Boyd up on the outside of Chelsea Angelo, but he gets checked up. Andrew Hobby will be carrying the momentum, but he will be on the outside when they get to Curve of Grande. And Ben Bargwanna finds himself in a very good position to be able to capitalise on the run towards the second chicane.
Yeah,
Ross has plenty of breathing space there. Chelsea Angelo is going to hold on to second, but they're going to go side by side, Jack Boyd and Ben Bargwanna. Bargwanna does not win out in that case, and it's let Brunt and Christensen join the train as well. If they get out of line, they start fighting each other, they start dropping backwards, and the cars behind can latch onto that very powerful slipstream to get themselves in the picture.
This is shades of what we saw at Catalunya last week as well, where we had big freight trains of cars getting formed up and drivers losing momentum and drivers losing positions, and big freight trains of cars forming up. We're seeing it again tonight. It's just like Excel racing in the real world, only it's TCR Audis that are putting on a show for us here at Monza. Sam Christensen, who we saw getting turned around while he was leading the race earlier on, has worked his way back up to 7th position. He's applying the pressure to Matthew Brunt. Top 5 might be a bit ambitious, but I think top 10 is certainly achievable for Ethan Grigol. Either way, he needs to pick up as many positions and score as many points as he possibly can. So Jordan Sinney, the next driver that Ethan Grigol will be trying to overtake, as we see Ben Bargwanna getting an excellent run out of the first chicane. He'll have all of the speed around the outside through Curve of Grande on Jack Boyd, and it's Ben Bargwanna who moves up into position 4.
Yeah, move very well done there. Chelsea Angelo's lost touch of Jordan Ross. Jordan Ross almost built out a 2-second lead. Now it's Angelo going off the racing line, trying to defend against Andrew Hobby into the first Lesmo. Parking it on the inside there, defending that position for all she's worth, but the hopes of winning this race now thoroughly gone as Jordan Ross powers away from those battling cars.
Was that attempted overtaking manoeuvre from Chelsea Angelo a couple of laps ago into the first chicane that has basically cost her the chance of winning, because that loss of momentum on the exit of that chicane meant that she fell out of slipstreaming range. And now it's Angelo having to defend from Andrew Hobby, who goes around the outside into Ascari, side by side through one of the fastest chicanes on the racetrack. And it might be Ben Bargwanna who was perfectly positioned to capitalise here, because he just hung back, was able to carry the momentum, and Jack Boyd's got all 4 wheels in the grass. Here comes Sam Christensen and Caleb Hydes.
Wow.
They are wide. Surely this is not going to work. Getting into the Parabolica, Ben Bargwanna decides that discretion is the better part of valor. He decides he doesn't want to get involved in any accident involving those cars, and he just falls to the back of the train. Andrew Hobby and Chelsea Angelo will be drag racing down the straight. Here comes Jack Boyd. They're going to fan out. They're going to go 4 wide once again. Which section of the circuit do you want to be in? We've already seen tangles where cars have run in a straight line, and there's a bump. And it's Ben from the front, and then gets fired off into the grass, and he can't get it stopped. He's going to have to go straight ahead at the first chicane. And we saw Jack Boyd going off the road there as well. But somehow Jack Boyd's popped out in position number 2, but both him and Ben Bargwana are going to cop slow down penalties, and that will move Chelsea Angelo back up into second position. You could say when they were running 4 and 5 wide down the straight that had trouble written all over it. Big loser Ben Bargwana, he falls all the way back to 8th position.
I don't think I've ever seen 5 cars wide into one corner on iRacing. That was a fantastic battle we saw there. Came unstuck at the end.
Unbelievable. I can't believe there was not a multi-car shunt heading into that first chicane. Really, really good car control from some of the drivers there just to avoid tangling up with their rivals.
We saw a week ago Chelsea Angelo wanted nothing to do with battling anyone and it worked out, dodging some issues and coming up into the top 5 in the race number 2. Well, this time thoroughly got the elbows out, fighting to defend second place all the way to the inside wall down the pit straight, and every other opportunity parking it on the apex, defending the inside at every opportunity. Again, we're going to see that in Parabolica, where Angelo stays all the way to the right-hand side for the entry. She is not going to give up on this second place.
She's streaming on Twitch tonight, Chelsea Angelo, and she is certainly putting on a show for her fans, that's for sure. She is fighting tooth and nail to hold on to that second place, but she's got a freight train of cars queuing up behind, and they're all going to have the advantage of the slipstream as they head down towards the first chicane. Andrew Hobby's in there, Sam Christensen, Jack Boyd in there as well, all looking to get the toe, and I think that Angelo might just get hung out to dry here because she's going to be on the outside when they get down to turns 1 and 2, and she does indeed lose 2 positions as Andrew Hobby and Sam Christensen go through, but Angelo switches back. She does not take no for an answer, Chelsea Angelo. She fights back on the inside. She gets back ahead of Sam Christensen, and she'll be on the outside of Andrew Hobby as well as they head through Curve and Grande. What a fantastic race this has been, and Jack Boyd once again looking to make a late braking manoeuvre down the inside when they get to the second chicane.
She's got it
Sam
back.
Christensen and Chelsea Angelo get second
Oh,
position.
no!
No, she hasn't. She's fired it off the racetrack. Chelsea Angelo, who had fought and fought and fought so hard to try and hold on to a top 3 position, finally, for her troubles, gets dispatched, gets sent off the road, and gets turfed out of contention.
Oh, she got turned there. She did a fantastic job throughout those last few laps, and what a battle that we saw there. She was very aggressive, but kept it clean at the same time. Never sent anybody off, and just unfortunate that her race has ended like this tonight.
That is such a shame for Chelsea Angelo. I really do feel for her because she had driven so well up to that point. She was putting on a great show for everybody. She was keeping it clean. In the end, it was just very light contacts from behind from Andrew Hobby that saw her getting sent off into the gravel trap. But anyway, Jack Boyd now moves up into second position ahead of Andrew Hobby.
Yeah, big changes in the top 10.
Oh, big sideways moment. Matthew Brunt gets sent off the road. And Ben Bargwana and Ethan Grigault, the drivers first and second in the championship, now nose to tail as well. We've got just a couple of laps left to go, and Ethan Grigault, fastest lap of the race on lap number 11, and he is looking to put a passing manoeuvre on one of his championship rivals.
Yeah, they're pulling over 5th place here, so that is where we were talking about that bubble. Can he get up there? Well, it does seem like Ethan Grigault is in position to battle for 5th place with 2 laps to go. Jordan Ross is not too far away in the lead as someone skips the first chicane. Dean O'Neill also has some damage on his blue car there as well, so action does not stop. Bargwana, Ethan Grigault through the second of the chicanes. Ethan Grigault still looking for how he might size up the move, how he might order it.
What a drive this has been from Ethan Grigalt from 35th on the grid up to 6th position. We saw a similarly impressive performance from Lee Harrison in the previous race where he came from 45th on the grid up to 5th, but this has been a fantastic recovery drive for Ethan Grigalt to score some points and minimise the damage that his rivals have been able to inflict on him in the championship. But Ben Bargwan is making it hard for him. Squeezes Grigalt right across the white line, but Grigalt will have the track position when they get to Ascari and he'll get up the inside. That's another spot gained. That's Ethan Grigalt back up into the top 5, and critically, he's moved ahead of one of his chief championship rivals.
Massive 29 positions gained at this point for Ethan Grigalt as they're about to start the final lap. Less than a minute left on that play clock. Jordan Ross well out in the lead, and this, the battle for second on back, where Jack Boyd is hoping Sam Christensen and Andrew Hobby here keep each other occupied. Hobby giving solid bump there to Christensen to keep him moving down the pit straight before he pulls across everyone early as they can, defending that inside run into turn 1.
I'm afraid to say that Andrew Hobby probably hasn't done himself any favours in any popularity contests on the interwebs tonight, because he was the one who made contact with Chelsea Angelo, who we know has quite a few followers on her Twitch stream. But Andrew Hobby at the moment battling there for a top 3 position, but he's got Ethan Grigalt rapidly closing in. We are on the last lap. Once again, this race has gone very fast because there's been action aplenty right throughout the field with some great battle packs and some close and intense racing. But Ethan Grigalt, it all looks like it was going to be a nasty, nasty situation for him in terms of the championship after race number 1. But he's been on a mission in race number 2. He's got himself back up into the top 5 to ensure that he scores himself a healthy bundle of points out of this race. And he's not done yet. There's still going to be a couple more passing opportunities left. He might be able to make a move on Andrew Hobby heading into Ascari.
I reckon that he could be on for a podium here. We know how good and smart Ethan Grigalt is. He's certainly shown his talent here in this race tonight. He's popping out. He's going to make it happen quite easily there. Can he get a run on this last stretch of road? Might be too far back, I reckon.
Ben Bargwana might be in a good spot to capitalise here as well. Andrew Hobby got slowed up coming out of the Ascari chicane, and Ben Bargwana will be in a good spot to maybe think about slipping down the inside or going around the outside. Those two cars will be side by side heading into the Parabolica. But take your hat off to Jordan Ross. A fantastic performance as we see that Ben Bargwana might just about make the move through on Andrew Hobby, but out in front it is going to be Jordan Ross who comes through to take a comprehensive race victory. A clean sweep for him in round 6 of the Circuit Excel eSeries. Jack Boyd finishes in second position, 6.2 seconds behind. And then it's Sam Christensen ahead of Ethan Grigalt in 4th spot. Andrew Hobby just holds out Ben Bargwana in the run to the line. And then it was Caleb.
Yeah, Caleb Hides came across in 7th, James Seitz in 8th. Dylan Burson scaped back there. That is only 1 or 2 cars left to come across the line there. Of course, short races and everyone packed up behind the safety car as well. Meant we didn't have as much field spread as we have had in some other rounds. So almost everyone to come across. Checkered flag, navigating Parabolica, the final corner. Comes the likes of Gordon Smith, Liam Hides, and Lee Harrison. What a yo-yo of a race for Lee Harrison. Most positions gained in race 1, most positions lost in race 2. Started in 6th and finished in 36th. Everyone disposing of their cars at the end of the race, but that should allow us to bring up your finishing order as they crossed the line.
There we go.
It was the race won by Jordan Ross, and he, in the end, was very effective at punching away from the rest of the pack as they battled. Jack Boyd came across in 2nd, Sam Christensen in 3rd. Ethan Grigalt worked his way up into 4th place, pinching a couple spots on the final lap away from Andrew Hobby. Ben Bargwana, I'm reading it off the screen, not who we know it is, driving in 6th place. Caleb Hyde 7th, James Seitz 8th. Dylan Burse picks up some points for his campaign there in 9th, and Matthew Brunt in 10th, puts 2 of the IRP cars in the top 10, Fonty.
Yeah, there you go. Nicholas Scaife in 11th. Joel Johnson sitting back there in 12th. Jaden Wanzik, we saw him make a pass on the last lap. He finishes in 13th. Geordie Sinney in 14th. Dean O'Neill 15th. Ryan Bell 16th. Mitchell McGrady 17th. Riley Buick in 18th. Not a good race there for Lachlan Manif back in 19th. And Jason Biggs in 20th.
And further down then, Harry Tompkins in 21st, Ben Smith in 22nd. Does not pick anywhere near as many points up as Ethan Grigalt managed. That will keep the championship quite interesting, as it has been in every race we've had so far. So Barry Ryan then in 23rd, ahead of Ryan Casher in 24th, Chris Donnelly, Chelsea Angelo battling for second place. A lot of that race scrapes it home in 26th. I'm sure she'll not be well pleased with that one. Cassandra Hoare behind that, Darren Whittington, Matthew Horn, Mark Roberts, and Peter Clarks then.
There you go. In 31st, we have Matthew Hulls, Jonathan Bykoff, 32nd, Gordon Smith in 33rd, Liam Hydes, 34th, Lee Harrison. Saw a fantastic race from him in race number 1. Race 2 was quite the opposite though. He finishes in 35th. Brett Matheson in 36th. Reese Rowland in 37th. And then we've got our one lap down drivers. Jared Curry, 38th. Aaron Oliver, he'll be absolutely gutted. He's been right up the pointy end and doing well in the championship. So not a good result for him in the second one. And Benjamin Smith will be in 40th.
We actually already had Ben Smith earlier. The automated numbers have thrown him down a lap from driving backwards after the checkered flag. So I think in a previous round, the same thing happened, and the result was allowed to stand. So we'll see about that one for Ben Smith. Maybe that's a habit he needs to drop. But yeah, so then the remaining cars there, Lockie, maybe you'll have a look at.
Yeah, so Edward Mitchell ahead of James Simpson, back to Tommy Saunter-Chun, another one of our title contenders who experienced dramas in race number 2. So pretty much all of the big players in the championship had at least one bad race tonight, with the possible exception of Ben Bargwana, but even he missed out on a top 10 finish in race 1. Isaac Sparks in 44th, Carrie Ann McGarry in 45th position, Ben Grice 46th, and then Lachlan Ward and Scott Stevenson in positions 47 and 48, completing the field.
I got to tell you, Lockie, what a round for Jordan Ross, sweeping race 1 and race 2 when everyone else needed quite the supply of Audi spare parts.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there. Sorry, guys. I think it was a fantastic round. What an awesome venue for such a cool car.
And you know what, guys? It only gets better next week, because we're headed off to Mount Panorama Bathurst for our second endurance round of the season. It'll be a 60-minute race coming to us from the holy grail of Australian motorsport. So we'll throw in pit stops, we'll throw in pit strategy, we'll throw in tyre conservation, we'll throw in all of the other variables that you do get in an endurance race. The last endurance race we had at Phillip Island came right down to literally the third last corner of the last lap. We know that Mount Panorama, in any form of endurance racing, always has a history of throwing up surprises. So I can't wait for your company next Saturday night for what will be the 7th round of the Shannon's Insurance Circuit Excel eSeries.
Don't know if I've got any drivers coming in for an interview. Give it a few minutes.
So what do we take away from that round, David? I think that, like I said, pretty much all of the big players in the championship, so Aaron Oliver, Tommy Saunter-Chun, Ethan Grigalt, obviously, they all had at least one bad result in that race.
I mean, you've got to have, reverse polarized magnet to keep everyone else away from you. It seems like we always knew the slipstream keeps everyone super packed together at every track with a long straight like we had at Barcelona, but more so Monza than anything else. I've seen some of the end of straight speeds from some of the data. Everyone 240.1 kilometers an hour as they were in the slipstream, topping it out at the end of sixth gear. I mean, yeah, it certainly meant that every single lap you had to fight for every position to defend against everyone. And some drivers managed to do it cleaner than others, and some maybe wishing they gave a little more space to their competitors.
So we're joined in the commentary box by Ben Smith, who's come in for a chat.
Yeah.
And Ben, were you meaning to jump into the commentary box for a chat? The rules are that if you come into the commentary box, it means we get to interview you.
Oh, I just want to come talk shit, really.
We are still live, you know.
Whoops.
Talk us through your night, because you had pretty good pace, but obviously a nasty incident in race number 1.
Yeah, no, I was having a great race with Dylan up, my teammate up the front there. And then, I don't know what happened. I went to go overtake him, and then before you know it, and I'm in the wall.
You were 3 wide heading down into turn number 1, and the incident involved Ethan Griggolt, the championship leader, as well. What happened to you in race 2?
I got taken out before we even crossed the start-finish line.
Yeah, that always makes it for a tough day at the office. On the positive side of things, though, your speed tonight was pretty encouraging, as it has been for most of the series.
Yeah, it was up there. It wasn't too bad. Wouldn't say it was the quickest. I didn't practice that much at all, really. Just jumped in tonight and went for it.
So next week we head to Mount Panorama for the 1 hour enduro. You're looking forward to that one?
Oh, that should be a fairly tight race, that one, I think. I'm yeah, I'd say it might be all right. Might be a bit interesting with a few other people in the track, but yeah.
Yeah, Mount Panorama always turns on fantastic racing action, no matter what car you're in. Just finally, Ben, people that you would like to thank behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, just Dylan for being my my slipstream buddy in that qualifying session to help me get up the front. We did pretty well there.
Indeed, you did. Monza, a circuit where slipstreaming is always critical. Thanks, Ben, for jumping into the commentary box. And I think, David, that pretty much wraps us up for this round of the Circuit Excel series. So thanks for everybody's company on at the SimSpeed TV network. We'll be back, like I said, for more XLA series action. We're off to Mount Panorama for round 7 of the series next weekend. On behalf of the entire team here at SimSpeed TV, I'm Lachlan Mansell. Bye for now.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything else. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?